March 4th, 2024. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Beacon City School District. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Vicki, roll call, please. Excused. Delayed. Here.
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 Here. Here. Shutter excused. Thank you. Matt, would you review the fire exits, please?
Yes, exits are in the back of the LGI.
Thank you. Open to the public. Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment? Hi, how are you? Did you want to make a public comment?
I do not.
You do not? Okay. Okay, well, welcome. So seeing none, hearing none, I'm going to move on. We have 2 workshops tonight. Our first is from our Director of Technology, Scott Welsh. Welcome, Scott. I don't see
Good to
it.
see you all. I'm here to present the 2024-25 technology budget. I'm Scott Welsh, Director of Technology. You all know my audiovisual specialist in my right hand, Mike Adamczyk. Amy Dick is my network specialist. I also have a open position at network specialist that we're looking to fill. Kim Stavali is my student data specialist, and my infrastructure support specialists, help desk, are Nick Middlebrook, Will Titman, and Liam Olive. Last year, I proposed data privacy specialist and cybersecurity compliance software. We put those into effect this year. Their goals were to ensure and maintain NYSED EdLaw 2D compliance, to acquire and manage our vendor data privacy agreements for the software that we use, Symetric software, which aids in cybersecurity NIST compliance, NIST being the National Institute of Standards and Technology. NIST is the guidelines that NYSED follows in terms of EdLaw. And NIST compliance and cybersecurity compliance are required for many cybersecurity insurance policies, including the one that we use here at Beacon. We just finished phase 1 of 4 for Symetrics, which is basically taking the district and our policies and our infrastructure at base level without any interventions and seeing where we stand. And I'm happy to report that without any intervention, we are at 77% compliance, with that little yellow portion being somewhat compliant. And there are a couple of items. Now, there are 5 controls: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And as you can see, we are at differing percentages for those controls. But I'm happy to report that most of those not full compliances are not having a documented procedure written somewhere. We have all of the pieces, but we don't have them organized. And what Symetrics does is it finds those loopholes, it shows them to you, and it proposes remediations. So in summary, we're making progress to safeguard our student, teacher, and staff information. We've established cybersecurity strategies, and we're using Symetrics. We're getting our work done. We've defined controls, began an annual assessment, and instituted a cybersecurity governance team. We're focusing on our gaps and continuous improvement. We've established an action plan based on the assessment I just showed you. We are improving our communications district-wide with awareness and training programs and fine-tuning our incident response plan. But we need your help for the entire district to participate in building a culture for awareness and data privacy and security. That was our proposal for this year in my presentation last year. I just wanted to give you an overview of where we're at in our use and shoring up our cybersecurity here at Beacon. And for the 2024-2025 budget, the total projected budget for next year is a little under $2.7 million, with a projected reimbursement of a little under $850,000, bringing the cost to district after reimbursement a little bit more than $1.8 million. In a breakdown, the budget, 48% of it will be through BOCES COSERS, where we get our Chromebooks, we get our software, the data privacy specialist and the Symetrics cybersecurity software I just spoke about, as well as other contracts that we have with BOCES, such as our copier lease. Our contractual vendors is 23%. Those are any other contractual services that we have outside of our BOCES COSER. Our staff salaries comprise 22% of the budget, and hardware and software, not including the Chromebooks and laptops that we get through BOCES, make up the other 7%. Those would be monitor replacements, server blade replacements, wiring, cabling, things of that nature. A 5-year overview showing the 2024-25 budget at $2.6 million. We are a little above the numbers for last year, but basically within the range of the last 5 years, give or take. Obviously, as I said, we're a little bit above what we were last year, so I would love the opportunity to show you what that extra cost is going towards. Our proposed items and projects for 24-25. We're going to be continuing our switch replacements. We did Roundabout Middle School. This coming summer, we'll be doing all 4 elementary schools. We'll be doing it through E-Rate, and this is to eventually have all of the schools replaced and upgraded with newer switches. Our current switches are nearing end of life, and their functionality for things that we're projecting to do in the future, the functionality is not commensurate with it. So these newer switches will provide us the resources we need to move on with other projects we have lined up. We will be moving our district-wide. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you're talking about the laptops, the Chromebooks.
I'm sorry.
When you say the switches?
No, I'm sorry. No, I mean our network switches, basically how we distribute our internet through the school.
Okay.
The actual hard switches that we plug our computers and our access
Okay.
points and other things into.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Thought I asked.
You're thinking of Nintendo Switch.
I don't know from switches, so
No, fair enough.
no one's going to hire me to be the technology director.
So currently we contract with Eastern Suffolk BOCES for Power School support. We will be moving our support over from Eastern Suffolk BOCES over to the Lower Hudson Regional Information Center and Southern Westchester BOCES, a little bit closer to home, and they provide a little bit more in terms of their support packages. We propose to start a Cisco VoIP phone system district-wide, bringing voice over IP phones and getting us off of our copper analog systems that we have in some of our buildings. As proposed through some of the Symetrics discoveries that we had, we have some upgrades to our network security infrastructure-wise, our firewalls, our content filters, and things of that nature to ensure that we meet our NIST compliance. Upgrades and replacements to our STEM and STEAM equipment and software in the elementary schools. I've met with the library media specialists, and some of the equipment and the software and the robotics and things that they have to use with the students is nearing end of life, so we'll be looking to replace or replenish that. And as artificial intelligence is becoming a hot button issue in education, we'll be looking to prepare district policies and training our staff for use of generative AI in the classroom. Looking forward beyond next year, as I talked about the switches and the need for updated switches with better resources, there will be a new wireless band coming out, Wi-Fi 6. And whenever a new wireless band comes out, all the devices that connect to wireless then migrate to that, meaning that when it comes out, you have a limited time to move over to it before what you have in your hand won't be functional anymore. This new wireless band requires more power from the switches. So the switches that we have in place would not have the capacity to function with Wi-Fi 6. Smartboard replacements. We use Dell smartboards in the district. We've purchased them at varying times. So some of the originally purchased ones are coming end of life. So replenishing the ones that are closest to end of life so that we have a unified solution in the district that is all within serviceable lifespans would be beneficial to the district. At the end of next year, we will need to propose to NYSED our district technology plan for 25 through 28 with our goals and how we plan to meet them. I'm hoping through continued use of our data privacy specialist and our Symetrics software that we will reach full NIST and EdLaw cybersecurity compliance. We look to continue to support the STEM and STEAM programs in the elementary and the middle schools, coding and esports in the middle schools and the high schools. And we're looking at AP and vocational courses for elective type courses that offer certification in IT through different widely accepted vendors like Adobe and things of that nature as potential programs that can be offered at the high school level. As always, thank you for your time, and I'm open to any questions you might have.
Can you tell me when you would expect the AP and the vocational IT programs to be able to be started?
So at this point, I'm locating them. I'm finding different ones that might work, and I'm bringing them to central administration as well as building principals, because obviously, you know, seeing the course is one thing, having somebody willing to teach the course is something else. So I'm discovering the initiatives and saying, hey, Adobe has a course that does this. I don't know if it would fit, but here's the literature on it. Here's the sites on it. But, you know, personally, I feel like vocational education, AP education, giving kids a leg up to leave the high school environment with either college credits in hand or a certification in hand that will give them a leg up over other graduating high school students is definitely beneficial. There's a big push towards vocational, you know, plumbers, electricians of that nature.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of entry-level positions within technology that would serve the same purpose. And if we can put an a fundamental Adobe certification in a graduating senior's hand, I think that would go a long way, either if they chose to enter college or they chose to go into the work field. I think that it's an opportunity that we need to, at the very least, explore.
Okay, great. And forgive me if this was on the chart and I just missed
No.
it, but can you tell me what percentage of the budget goes toward instruction, like the STEM and the STEAM and the coding and things like that?
So that, you know, I would put it, that would all depend upon where we got it from.
Okay.
So if I purchased one of the items was the Ozobots, which it incorporates coding, it's robotics, it's kind of these little orbs that you can code, and they, you know, you draw dotted lines and dashed lines, and they follow the code, they follow the program. I have one, I got one in my grad program, I've played with it with my son, they're great. But they have a very short shelf life as far as, like, you know, the motor burns out, things of that nature. I can get those through BOCES. So if I got them through BOCES, it would go on the BOCES COSA.
I see.
If I
Okay.
got them through the vendor, it would go on the contractual, you know. So what part of the budget it would fall on would basically be dependent upon where I got it from.
Okay.
I know Mr. Dwyer's, I think this is probably, we're more looking at 25, 26 school year, but Mr. Dwyer's looking with some of his teachers at if there's a DCC option for technology-related classes too. So as you know, we offer a number of DCC credit courses here at the high school, and so they're looking to see if there's one in that
That'd be great.
area.
Yeah.
So I think there's a fair amount of interest with a couple of the teachers in doing it. So I think that's pretty actively happening. Again, we'd be targeting more the 25, 26 school year
Yeah.
with that.
Okay, cool.
I know
Yeah.
the Mount does coding 1 and coding 2. They offer Mount St. Mary's. They do.
Okay. Yeah, Mount St. Mary is trying to more aggressively do, I don't mean aggressively in a bad way, but they're trying to like put their courses out into colleges or high schools a little bit more. I know we had some initial conversations with them about possibly like an intro to teaching course, because there's some interest in that in the high school.
Are we, this is kind of a side question, but can we have DCC classes and Mount St. Mary
Yeah.
classes?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, there's a few districts in the county that have like multiple, DCC, Syracuse, Mount. So yeah, that doesn't matter at all. So yeah, I think it's just sometimes a question of like finding the teacher and getting it organized enough. But I do know they've been talking a lot about trying to find something through DCC, and we'll take a look at the Mount too. Because I think it's we do have AP Computer Science, but like I think there's a need for more probably, and I think we're seeing it with the class choices kids are making at the high school too.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah, there's a lot of vendors out there that are, they want to partner with K through 12 districts, and they have, packaged courses that lead to certifications and other things.
I mean, just, I know this was talked about a little bit in the school presentations, but just also want to give just a little shout out again to the esports clubs or teams, because like when you see that bus leaving Round-Butter the high school to go up, like that bus is packed. Like we have very full teams, really high interest. And I think it's been a really,
Yeah.
really great addition the last few years to have that. And the engagement level is very high, and it's really great to see. And
The chairperson at Duchess BOCES that does the technology integrations and basically handles the esports for the county as far as the schedule and what teams go up against what teams. I was at a meeting this past Friday, and she did mention at our district is the most like into it of all the other districts, that Christina here at the high school is in constant contact and, just eager to go with whatever's presented. So it speaks well of us.
That's great. I have a couple of questions. One, I'm just wondering with the phone system switchover, is there any long-term cost savings in that?
There is certainly cost savings. So we have contracts with a couple of analog phone companies, and our fax machines, our phone lines, just because of the nature of copper wiring, they go down constantly. So there would be a cost savings in regards to having the phone system going through our actual network rather than through the copper wiring. We would be saving just on the repair calls, and then we wouldn't need to have those analog companies at all. We wouldn't have to have a monthly bill from them. We would have one bill for our internet, and that internet would serve both our data and our phone needs. So there would be an immediate cost savings in regard to that, and long-term, it winds up paying for itself because the system also would integrate through Single Wire, a company called Single Wire. It would integrate with our lockdown system, our cameras, and our PA system. You'd be able to make your morning announcements from your phone. You'd be able to lock down a building or the district if you saw something from your phone. The security kiosks would have phones that had screens on them tied to the cameras at the front door, so they can see who's coming and unlock the door from the phone. It integrates with all of our other systems, so there's cost savings associated that way as well.
Awesome. And then my other question is, it's kind of a bigger question. I feel like maybe this is a future workshop, but we really have not talked about AI at all. And I think it would be great to create some sort of presentation for the board and therefore for the public where we talked about how that is impacting education, how we are dealing with that specifically, what policy changes are coming up.
So you're absolutely right. It is a larger conversation. I can tell you the Duchess BOCES policy at this point is don't unblock anything AI related, because there is such a large amount of work that needs to be done, you know, from a district standpoint, you need to have a policy in place for how you're going to use it, how it's going to be used in a classroom, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. And then you have to have training with staff as to what to look for as far as student use, what kind of assignments you're going to give, you know, where your classroom assessments are not going to be based on things that can be generated through AI as much, because you want to limit that. You want to see the kids thinking through things and not just asking AI to write them a paper. You know, you need to be able to check for those things in your own use from where it touches me, data privacy, right? If you have a plugin that you're using with your PowerPoint or with your Google Slides, and that PowerPoint, that plugin is AI related, and you're typing in students' names or names of initiatives or anything that's data private for a district, that's getting sucked up by AI, and it can be used to service somebody else's request because it's one big think tank. So you have to think about how you're using it in terms of data privacy. There's a lot that needs to be covered before you can just turn it on.
Well, and in the meantime, it's already here. And so our students are using it, and so educating them about that. I think.
Absolutely.
At the last half day for professional development on February, what day was that? 28th, whatever. A couple weeks ago, there was a guest speaker who came in and worked with the middle and high school teachers, and that was one of the areas he talked about. So we're trying to have the conversation with staff, and right, I think with so much of what we're all faced with, but especially our kids, it's like trying to really prepare them for dealing with this world and being able to sift through all the information, all the issues with social media and things like that. So we're starting to more specifically talk about it
Okay.
with staff.
Well, maybe over the summer we could talk about it a little bit more.
The New York State School Board Association put out a template district policy regarding AI, you know, that you can borrow their language from and craft a policy for yourself, for your district. They put that out about a month and a half ago.
Okay.
That's, you know, so yes, it is out there. Yes, there are districts that are using it. Yes, the kids are using it. But as far as education and getting your ducks in a row, we're just at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
When we talk about like higher order thinking, I've seen some examples, not here in the district, but just more sort of global, of assignments being like critique this thing generated by AI, right? For students to critique it or see how they could improve on something, right? It's not gonna like replace what we're doing, but I think you're right that, preparing for it and getting kids used to being able to deal with it is important. So again, we did a little bit more formally some PD around it with all the secondary teachers. It wasn't specifically just about AI, but I know he worked on that, and it's something that we'll continue to talk about.
Are there any other questions? No. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you very much for your time.
Next, we have a transportation update.
Yeah, so we wanted to use tonight, we know on March 18th, we are adopting what's on the
On the ballot.
the propositions on the ballot. And so we wanted to this isn't like the formal transportation budget presentation. This is just, we wanted to talk about what's on the ballot. And so as we remember last year, we had a very specifically written proposition about purchase of an EV bus that was, the part of it was if we received grant funding. So we have to talk about that tonight. So Anne Marie was going to talk about how we need to kind of take that back to the voters and make some changes in what we're working on with that. And then what else also the other buses we want to do on the ballot too.
Yeah, so as you remember, in May of 2023, the voters approved the proposition to purchase the EV bus. And yes, Matt, the language was very specific. We used $466,000 as the cost of the bus, and we needed to get a grant of $250,000. So fast forward to now, the current cost of an EV bus and a level 3 charger is now up to $495,000. So we spoke to the district's school attorney, and we are talking about tweaking the language, and we need to put it back out to the public in May. We also want to include an additional EV bus, so we're going to put one proposition out to amend the language and then to add the authorization for another.
Right, just to be clear, because I know this is important. Like, we weren't able to move forward with last year's proposition just because the cost and the grants available didn't match what voters approved.
Right. The cost was more and the grants were less. So we didn't have the authorization based on the net value that we had asked the voters to approve. So we're going to be in the process of tweaking the language and then adding another bus for that. Right now, the two areas to get grants are the 2023 EPA Clean School Bus Rebate Program, which is up to $200,000. That's just for the bus. There's also other grant opportunities for the charger, because that's also included in the $495,000. We have applied already for that grant. It was due in February. We were a little proactive and actually applied for 2 buses, not having the authorization for the second yet, but it's a process. So all we wanted to do is get approved, so we had the ability to do so if in May then the voters approved for an additional bus. So we wanted to be a little bit proactive on that. The second one, the New York School Bus Incentive Program, is up to, for the charger and the bus is about $220,000. We are in the process of applying for that now. So all of the grant applications go through the bus manufacturer and seller. They apply for you. So there's some background information that the vendor needs from us to do the second application, but we're in the process of doing that. These bus programs have specifics. So there was a grant in the prior year, which we were not able to apply for because the bus, they want you to take a bus off the road. So it has to meet certain criteria. It has to be a certain age, has to be a certain engine. It has to have been used for more than a certain amount of mileage for a certain amount of months during the school year. So the bus program last year, we did not have a bus that fit there, so we could not apply. In the one that we did apply for 2023, we have 2 buses that we will retire that meet the criteria. So they moved the bus up to be a little bit newer, and we have, they're buses that are struggling for us, but they would be perfect to retire and actually get them off the road and then give us the ability to get the rebate program for the EV bus. So we just wanted to kind of explain that. This way you know what's coming when the resolutions come forward to you at the next meeting of how we're going to move forward. So this would be an amendment of last year because we couldn't buy the EV bus, and also an inclusion of 1 more. So it'd be 2 in total. A couple other things, we had Central Hudson out to our bus garage. We can actually install chargers and use the 2 electric buses under the current situation. So there might be some work that Central Hudson would need to do on a transformer that's there on the location, but we do not need to upgrade as of yet. As we go forward, this would probably be the max. But the Transportation Department is excited about getting the EV bus because they could, use it on all the routes to see how it works. There's training that needs to be had, which we're going to start talking to Leonard Bus, who we've been working with. There's also training they provide to our staff, to the fire departments in the localities, which is all a requirement. And, if for some reason there was a fire in a bus battery, they would need to know how to do that. So Deb Call and I are working with the vendor to try to start setting up the trainings and be a little bit more proactive on that.
So do you have any sense of what the timing to actually have a bus in hand would be?
So if we get the applications should be approved April or May, which is perfect timing because at that point we would know about the second. then it's really a timing issue. So they won't deliver the bus until the charger is actually, installed. So we would do a letter of intent similar to what we do for our buses right now, and then they would order them. So I think the timing was more than 12 months last year, but I think they're getting to be closer to that. So we would have to do the financing and all of that. So I imagine reasonable, I don't think we would see it till the following school year, but it would be getting everything all together, like getting the work done, making sure the electricity is up to installing the charger, and then having the bus delivered.
Is the rebate program and the incentive program, are they competitive, or is it basically like if you meet the criteria, you're going to get the money?
It's not competitive. If you are considered there's a designation for a district that you would get higher preference to get it. We don't qualify for that, and it's based on where we are. It's not a poverty level, but it's a demographic kind of study. So that actually hurt us the last time as well. But they encouraged us to apply for both because there is a lot of money allocated to both. And to be honest with you, a lot of districts are not interested at the moment of doing that. We did a poll. The business officials in Dutchess County did a poll, and only ourselves and Hyde Park are even interested in looking at it. Everyone else is waiting to kind of see what's going on. So that's actually a good thing for us for the grant program because there's not a lot of districts that are applying for it. So hopefully that works in our favor.
Okay.
So just to be clear, Marie, for this year, the proposition that was on the budget, we didn't purchase an EV bus because it didn't meet the criteria that was on the proposition.
Correct.
For the 2024 proposition, it's going to be what's on the second slide here. You're going to amend the language to, is it going to be that it's still going to equal what the cost of the current buses cost now, or is it going to be more?
It's going to be more.
So it's
Because
going to be more than what a regular bus costs? It would
Correct.
cost the district more?
Yes. Yes, because what we're finding is the cost of EV buses continues to increase. And the competitive grants are running around 200. I saw a maximum of 250. So it's not going to, whereas we can purchase a bus for about $160,000, a 72-passenger gas bus. So it's not going to meet the criteria. There are other grant opportunities coming that will help us pay for the charger. That's part of this. And it will also hopefully help us doing the infrastructure changes as we're going forward. Because as of right now, there is no change to the mandate. So, Governor Hochul is still going forward with having us not be able to purchase buses, gas or diesel, after 2027, and then have a full fleet in 2035. So this is like a step in the right direction, but there's still a lot of work that has to get done.
I just think we need to be clear to what that cost would be. Like, what is the cost to the district if we go forth with it?
Okay.
Like that, I know the other one was specific and it didn't meet the criteria. I think we should broaden it, but I think that the voters also want to know what's the cost to the district for that.
Okay. So
We were thinking that both sort of in the budget mailer, but also just in various other communication venues that we really try to explain. This will need a lot of education around it because it got a really high vote last year, and then we weren't able to match the grant. We weren't able to get the right grant. And so we're now taking it back. There's a lot of explaining to do. Nothing bad, just like things have changed a little bit with how districts are being funded.
Yeah.
And just add some clarity to it. We wanted to basically pose this to you all today so we could work on, the propositions for the ballot, to bring back in front of you March 18th. And we were thinking since the proposition wasn't worded correctly the last go around, to go for 2 this time. Not guaranteeing anything, but who we're working with on the grants is more positive about our applications. Not, again, a guarantee or anything, but it seems more hopeful.
And
that-
there's no air quality qualifier, because when I was reading about it, you could qualify by demographic or by air quality, and I know Dutchess County has been labeled like poor air quality for most of it.
Right. It wasn't, the geographical area we looked at where the bus garage is where they used, so we didn't qualify there. But as we've been finding, the rebate programs are getting less and less stringent on the requirements. So like so for last year, we couldn't even apply at all, right? And now we can apply for EPA, and we're starting to see more funding available. I don't think it's rolling out as quickly as everyone thought it was going to do, but we're hopeful. Anthony, I completely understand your point, and I think we need to do that. You know, we can talk about, and I was going to talk about this later. I mean, these buses are also eligible for transportation aid, but then so are the other buses. So I want to make sure, you know, we would finance them over 5 years, similar to what we do with the other buses, and you know, but there is going to be a cost increase for an EV bus. So I think we can be clear
So
with that.
is the wording going to be, since it's for 2 buses, it's going to be 1 total? Or is it going to be like an amount per bus, like a maximum amount per bus?
I think maximum amount per bus would probably be easier for the public to
Yeah, I think
understand.
so.
Yes. So I think it's just amending the language and then adding the bus, but talking about, you know, I mean, we're anticipating the cost to continue to increase a little, so I want to make sure that we, you know,
There's a little
don't
wiggle
have to
room
go
for-
back again and do it, you know, next May.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Has there been talk with the towns, like the 3 towns, Wappingers, Fishkill, and the city of Beacon, about, you know, I hear, and I don't know, I'm just hearing that the buses are significantly heavier than our current buses, and can the roads take that weight?
We haven't had that conversation, but that's a good conversation to have. We also have to have a conversation, again, like I mentioned, with the fire department. Like, there's a lot of municipalities that we need to involve. And that would really impact like the whole fleet. I think, you know, having 1 or 2 electric buses now, just to kind of learn them and give us the time. But we will definitely include them in the conversation.
I think it's great that we're looking to get 1 or 2, because then it's like a trial basis as to, you know, can it do the piggyback runs and so forth? Can they hold it? You know, is it running as many miles as it does with the heat and AC? So
There's a big learning curve, for
there
sure.
is, and I just think we need to be clear with the public as to what's the cost increase, so they could
Yeah.
have an informed decision. Because I think that's why it was successful, is they kind of know, okay, if it's 466 and we're getting this much, this is what it's going to cost, and it's similar to what we purchase buses now for.
Right.
But I do think it's,
But it's
until
too
we
stringent
get one on the
to-
road, we're not going to be able to understand how to estimate
I know.
what, you know, like Wappingers was estimating, they have a much larger fleet than we do, but they were estimating based on, you know, just the data out there, that they would need a lot more buses. It's not a 1-to-1 replacement because of the range and because of other things. So it is, I think, important to start to understand I mean, I have an electric car. It really depends on the route. Is there a lot of uphill? Is there, you know, the weather does make a difference. And I don't think you can't just get sort of like the data download from a Google search and make these decisions. You really need to have a bus to
Do it in the real world.
Yeah.
Also, is there any kind of talk about, I mean, there's this mandate for these buses, and that to change the fleets over, but I think in the electric car market, what you're seeing right now, the most popular ones are hybrid. And do they even make hybrid? Like, it feels like there should be some sort of, in this unfunded mandate, it would be like helpful to put together some kind of, I don't know if it's superintendents, like creating some kind of roundtable discussion, but, you know, there's vehicles that are used by school districts that are lighter, that could be converted to electric easier. There are, like, it almost feels like, I'm glad we're doing the 2, and like these guys said, that we get to like kind of we get past a learning curve with understanding what the infrastructure needs are. They are heavier, considerably heavier than diesel engines. And we do live in a very hilly place, so that's probably something to consider. So there's probably, I think it makes more sense once these are in hand to put together some sort of task force or some group of transportation directors that start talking about the factors and the goal. Like, it feels like it should be a goal of a net reduction in carbon. I mean, that we're moving towards, and just realistically, like, how, given your terrain, given your size of your district, given your routes, like, how do you get there?
Right.
It's also looking at districts that are similar, right? Like, I know Roundout really jumped into it and they bought a large, I'm interested to see what happens with that piece.
How did they
Because they,
fund it?
huh?
How did they fund it? That's not a wealthy district.
It's funny because it was, and they got like $2 million state aid cut too. And they contract out with their buses too.
Right.
So like they got a grant for like 4 million, but they purchased the buses and were able to gift it to who they contract with.
Okay.
But their contract still increased like a third of what it was, which is a significant increase. But then they have to still do the infrastructure, and then they're gonna have a large bus fleet going electric in 1 year, which is gonna be interesting because they're hilly, they're in the cold
Right.
and stuff. So like that's something where I think we could kind of
Yeah,
monitor.
maybe
see
they
what they're
should,
doing.
maybe they should start documenting.
It's almost good not to be the first one.
Email them to
Yeah.
do a presentation
Yeah.
at NISBA.
They should.
Convention.
I really do think because,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it's a smart, I mean, the unfunded mandates always bite us in some ways, but, you know, in technology adoption, you have if in consumer technology, the option of having early adopters, you kind of learn, and then that sort of trickles into the broader population. But with big institutional things, you're always gonna regress to like what's familiar, what's standard, what you have already invested in. So it does make sense to do some kind of nudge, but I think that there then has to be a reasonable goal that lets you achieve the ends, which would be a reduction in carbon, while also, you know, not burdening districts with things that don't suit their needs.
I mean, it's interesting because like if we have to have voter approval and we have to be rolled over in, what was it, 2035?
Right.
Yeah.
What happens if the voters don't approve the buses? Like,
Well, I think something has to change.
yeah, there's like
We
tons.
can't do this in the way that our budgets work
I
in
know.
time. We can't our fleet would turn over naturally in how many years?
Usually, we keep the buses like 8 years, 8 to 10 years.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I mean, you know, the transportation directors and as a whole, they had a conference recently and they're very worried about it because, you know, we don't know anything about it. So we're buying one or two and we're going to figure it out and get the training. But if you think about the rollover of how many you would need, it's coming much quicker. So there's costs and there's training and there's just, you know, not knowing. I was surprised by the other districts' kind of comments. Like they're kind of like, something's going to change and I'm going to wait. Whereas like, you know, maybe we should just try it, right? Because it's going to be a mindset change for our drivers, for our mechanics, for, you know, a lot of people. So I think once you have it here and you see how it works, it's not as scary
Right.
as like knowing it's coming.
yeah.
I know Jesse mentioned a little bit too in his facilities budget presentation, but we've been trying to buy electric vehicles for here, you know, like you know, trucks and stuff like that, and we can't afford it
Yeah.
at all. So, you know, that's the other part. We're trying to say, well, why can't you put it on state contract like you have the other vehicles? Because then it would be a little bit cheaper. So, you know, the cost is prohibited too on some things.
I mean, maybe that's something that we do advocacy around, like that we, you know, create.
There was a
some kind of-
resolution last year. I didn't love the way it was worded, because it was more like tap the brakes, no pun intended, but, but
Or
I
every
think what we need is you know, things to be funded differently. So it's like, if you are investing in zero carbon equipment, then there's, you know, I don't know, higher state aid for it or some kind of reimbursement program or something like that, because it just really, with the way our budgets work, it doesn't, even though there's long-term savings in it, and I obviously, I totally believe in it.
But I think that data to make the case is also kind of spotty. Like, there really needs to be solid information that's like, this is how much we estimate it would save a district per vehicle over time, or like, this is the infrastructure that has to be invested up front, and this is what you save once that's done. Like, I feel like there's no solid information about that, or even, as you say, like, what kind of carbon footprint are you reducing? Like,
Yeah, I mean, what's the goal of the mandate? Like, is the goal of the mandate to reduce dependence on fossil fuels? There's I mean, this almost feels like a way, like, I mean, if you're Rhonda and you're just like, okay, we're just gonna do it and whatever, we'll see what happens, which is, I mean, you gotta admire their spirit. Like, I feel like it's very radical and I like it, but, you know, as fiduciary trustees, it feels extremely irresponsible to like just throw caution to the wind like that. But I think that there's, like, it would make sense if doing it this way, it's just going to take forever and it probably won't have the reduction in fossil fuel usage that they want to achieve. So we just sort of need to figure out what's the goal of this mandate. And if the goal of the mandate is to reduce, there'd also be other ways to do that within buildings and do that within, you know, creating a more conscious accounting around that. It's just zeroing in on transportation and not giving any support doesn't feel, for lack of a pun intended, sustainable.
So, do you know when we would have the language? I think it would be great for the board to see the language a little bit before the meeting, just so we have time to, you know, make sure it makes
Yep.
sense.
I
to
will
us.
reach out to the attorney and get it. I can email it to you so that you can see it prior
Okay.
to the 18th meeting.
I think that would be really helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just a couple other things. So I just wanted, again, to be clear, we're going to amend the language of the Proposition 3 from May of 2023 and then increase the net cost and then include the authorization to purchase the second bus. So that would be all worded, and then I will gladly share that with you when I get it from the attorney. And then we also will be putting up an additional bus proposition. So we are, the Transportation Department is asking for 372 passenger buses. And, you know, just a reminder to you all that we receive close to 59.9% of transportation aid, and we will finance the EV buses and the regular buses over 5 years with a bond anticipation note so that we can match the cost over 5 years when we get our transportation aid. So it'll be a similar way we do things, but we are going to ask the voters for these as well, because we do need to just keep the fleet going, and we do have some buses that needed to, these will all be, the bigger buses all will be traded in, and we'll get a cost benefit for the new ones. I always ask for questions at the end, but I like when we have questions during the thing. But if you have any more, I'd be more than happy.
Anybody else have any questions? Thanks a lot.
I just want to say a thank you to, there's like a team of people working on this in the district. And so Anne Marie's obviously heading it up, but Jesse in the facilities side, Deb in the transportation side, Perry's also advising us. And so we're spending a lot of time trying to put this together and keep it moving forward in a positive direction. I think it was disappointing to us to have it pass last year. Like I said, was it the highest? It was I think it was I can't remember. Approved at a really high rate by the voters, and then we weren't able to match a grant to it. So we're excited to be able to keep moving forward with it.
Someday we'll be driving it in the spirit of Beacon Day.
It'll be driving itself.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, reviewing the agenda, there are a couple changes. 12.01, 2024, 2025 school year calendar, the region dates were corrected, and the 12.07 policy 4327 was removed for its second read, pending legal review.
I have a question. I'm not sure if I'm going to say it in the right order, or if I'm supposed to say it somewhere else. But I was looking at the calendar, and it says the 2 half days, say the 26th and the 26th. It should be the 25th and the 26th of November. I think it says 26th
November.
and 26th. Unless there was a spot on my computer and it really says the 25th.
Yeah.
It says 26, 26, yeah.
You mean the
November 26th.
Monday, Tuesday before
Oh,
Thanksgiving?
yeah, it should say 25th and 26th,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, good catch.
We can, so,
Sorry, Vicky.
This is never gonna get.
almost,
Vicky and I spend like
With,
half an hour on the calendar like every day for like the last 2 weeks, and then there's still
I
something.
know, then you get the blind spot, you can't even see. Well, we can just, we'll pull it from the consent agenda and amend it and then approve the amended version.
Okay.
wait, I think mine says 25th, 26th.
No, well, mine doesn't.
Mine doesn't.
Mine does.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Mine doesn't.
25, 26.
In November?
I'm looking at.
Oh,
November.
no, at the bottom here.
Oh, there, okay. I was like, in the calendar. I don't even look at those dates.
I know, right?
That's not useful to me.
I do, because I'm never sure if I understand the,
What
Also,
the
I
code
mean,
means.
Yeah.
it's fine,
there should be a.
but that week is just 1 month of Sundays, so like, generally.
Well,
hosting
we want it to be
Thanksgiving?
written, right?
Yes,
So,
of course.
thank you for noticing that.
Good
Okay,
catch. I
so
can't even see it.
we don't need an executive session, I don't think. Does anyone need, okay. Superintendent's report?
I just wanted to share a couple things tonight. One is this week, tomorrow night and Thursday night, Music in Our Schools week. So tomorrow night is the instrumental side of things with our middle and high school students. I know they've all been working really hard. The performance starts at 7 o'clock here at the high school. Thursday night is the choral side. And so students, again, from middle and high school will be performing. So it's open to the public, not just parents. So it's a really great week, and they really do some great performances. And our elementary band students also during the school day do some things where they get to come to the high school and work with the high school band. And so I know as a parent of a fifth grade band student last year, that was just really a mind-blowing experience for them to play with the older kids. So it's an exciting week in the music world, and hope to see folks out there. I just wanted,
I'm sorry, who does the program for those? Like, you know, they have the program,
Wright, she's the music department coordinator.
because my name was spelled wrong once.
okay.
Someone told me, someone was like, oh, I noticed your name was not spelled correctly on the back of the program. So it's just,
Probably been now if it hasn't been correct.
Sorry about that.
She did text me for some other things. She didn't have to do that. Sorry.
The H in my name gets moved around
Yeah.
quite a bit. Oh, yes.
So.
So
K-R-I-S-T-A-N. My grandmother gave me things engraved incorrectly.
maybe, Elena, we will check. So someone remind me tomorrow. I also just wanted to kind of preview future budget work or budget work that we're kind of in the midst of right now. So at the March 18th board meeting, we're going to be doing presentations. Heather will be doing a presentation on the PPS side of the budget. Sagi will be talking about the instructional and PD side. We'll also be kind of rounding out the transportation budget on March 18th. Then, spring break, and we take a bit of a break as a board. We come back April 15th for the final budget presentation. So I just want to, I was talking with Anne Marie earlier today. I tend to be, my style for a long, long time has been to be very kind of even-keeled and level-headed and, try not to be too alarmist about stuff. But I think it's important to take a moment just to revisit the governor's budget proposal for a district like Beacon. So about half the districts in the state of New York, so I think it's about over 300, are receiving a pretty significant decrease in foundation aid this year. So I'm going to look at Anne Marie just to make sure I get my numbers right. So Beacon's decrease in the governor's budget proposal is $1.4 million. If you factor in the other state revenues we get, the decrease is more in the ballpark of $900,000. So every year we get an increase in foundation aid, not a million. I'm gonna round it to $1 million, not $1 million decrease or a $900,000 decrease. So we're doing a few things on our end. So again, the level-headedness comes in. It's like we're trying to prepare for everything. So we, for that April 15th budget meeting, like we are trying to prepare for really 3 different contingencies probably. But if the governor's budget goes through, it would really have a significant impact on what we do here in the district, and I can't sugarcoat it. So we're trying, I don't like to do a bunch of scare tactics. We have a budget, and I think over the last 7 years, we've really built a lot of things that support all of our students pre-K through 12. And we'll really spend the next couple board meetings really trying to retell that story. But the governor's budget proposal would be devastating for us. And I've seen some other news clips of other districts speaking out about it more. That's usually not kind of how I do things, but I want to ring the alarm bell that decrease would be significant for us, and it would impact the day-to-day student experience here in the district. So I know, we have a really robust advocacy committee of the board, and I know we're working on some things with that. I know I've met personally with State Senator Rollison. I'll be meeting with our Assembly and Jonathan Jacobson soon. I know the board will be working on stuff like that. And so, one of the things in this world that, I think I was probably read this children's story too many times as a kid, but the boy who cried wolf too many times, right? Like, so you don't want to do this, and then the state at the last minute kind of comes through, and the negotiations between everyone in Albany and Beacon gets what they need. So even in our best case scenario, what different advocacy groups, mine is NISCUS, the superintendent group, Anne Reese's ASBO, the business official group in New York. Our best case scenario in Beacon is not for an increase. It's to basically have a level off. So not an increase in foundation aid, but just basically a leveling, which means not a decrease, but also not an increase. So that's also significant for us too.
It is like a decrease since we're
Right.
used to getting that money.
Right. So, we're all, I'm not going to take claim of this. We're all very passionate. Obviously, it's why we're all here about kids, and especially kids in this district. So we're doing everything possible so that our 4 through 21-year-olds don't notice a difference next year, right? So we're spending quite a bit of time behind the scenes to figure out ways to do this. But I wanted to take this moment to just basically say, I know board members have said it, but I'll say it. The governor's budget proposal is just harmful to probably about half the districts in the state of New York, Beacon being one. I think it's interesting in our region that it's some of the small city school districts that are the most impacted. So some of our most diverse districts are receiving the biggest decrease in that proposal. So it's going to be harmful to districts, meaning it's going to be harmful to staff and students if it goes through as planned. So I know, I look forward to the advocacy committee meeting where we talk about this more. I'll do parts of my piece. I think it would be great for the advocacy committee and me to alert the public more about this. And again, there's a lot to happen in Albany between now and then.
Well, I think it's really important to point out that this really smacks of the former governor's approach to budgeting, which is that you're back on your heels and then you're happy because you didn't get quite as big a cut as you thought. And when we were up in Albany a couple weeks ago advocating with NYSBA, everyone was like, oh, don't worry, this will work out. And my point was like, this is impossible to plan around. This is really a ridiculous thing to ask us to do. And Hochul spoiled us with 1 year of transparency and full funding for foundation aid, and it was lovely. We all knew what we had. We were able to plan, and so for whatever reason, she's decided that didn't work for her. But it seemed like our representatives were also saying like they forget, I guess, that we're sitting here having these meetings. You guys are having meetings trying to figure out how we're going to pay for next year, and they're like, oh, don't worry, this
I
will
think
be
that's a
fine.
really good point and something to bring up because while I am pretty confident that the number isn't going to be what it is right now. I think the advocacy that we can do after, let's say everything works out, the advocacy that we should be doing afterward is like, school budgets should not be your bargaining chip, like on either side. And like, this is not like other kinds of like funding streams that go into the budget. Like, this is really like, this is kids,
Little human beings, yeah.
And this is around the time when those budgets have to be set. So like you said, it creates its own set of problems, even if the funding is
Eventually
reinstated.
comes through.
So yeah, I think that that's a good advocacy for the horizon as well.
So just, and again, we'll paint this story more richly in the upcoming board meetings, but Just a few things we've made huge strides in the last few years. Our class sizes, we've really put a lot of emphasis on the elementary class sizes. We've made huge gains in decreasing those. But really, our class sizes across the board, pre-K through 12, are really, really healthy for students and staff. I don't have all the statistics in front of me, but I know for school districts our size and our region, especially Dutchess, I know we probably have some of the best class sizes. That's a win for us. That's something we've kind of fought for and worked for. We've greatly expanded full-day pre-K in the district, where we're offering more than any other district in Dutchess County, regardless of size. So we're, I don't know, 7th biggest, 6th biggest in Dutchess County, yet we're offering the most full-day pre-K of any district. So these are things we don't want to give up on, right? Our extracurricular enrollment across, K through 12 has expanded exponentially, driven a lot by elementary kids being in clubs, which we didn't really have 5, 6 years ago or 7 years ago, but also driven by middle school kids who are really investing in all the new clubs that we're offering. We see sort of less exponential, but still increases at the high school level, and different clubs, sports, activities, things like that. Those things all take resources. There's really no way to do that work without resources. And to have this budget just sort of flip on a dime, Meredith, like you said, one year it was this, and then the next year, I think the number is over 300, but about 50% of the districts in New York are experiencing some level of this. Beacon's one of the more dramatic ones. So it's something that I typically, we're problem solvers, so we just try to figure out how to get through it all. But I think it's important to alert the community to this, because it's pretty drastic and very detrimental. During my last piece will be this. I think it's important in the advocacy not just to talk about foundation aid, like Flora mentioned, and as several of you mentioned during the EV bus thing, we need to be talking about the way the state funds different things too. We've spent a lot of time in previous meetings talking about the way pre-K is funded by the state, and I was laughing, maybe not laughing, maybe that's not the right, but I almost feel like universal pre-K should have an asterisk next to the universal, or they should remove the word universal, because they're not paying for universal pre-K. They're really paying for about a third of what pre-K costs in districts, and local districts are coming up with the rest. So I think, the advocacy is obviously, it's like we're sort of backed into a corner, so it's please get us back to somewhere better than we are currently with foundation aid. But I think looking at things like the EV bus mandate and funding for that, the way pre-K is funded in the state is not good. So things like that. You all have been great with that, but we'll be taking a more active role. And like I said, the next 2 board meetings, we're really going to be trying our best to put a budget forward that's not really trying to pull back from where we are. But one of our scenarios, Anne Marie, is that bad one, right? If the governor's budget goes through, which again, we're being told by everyone it's not going to be the final budget, but we're preparing for all. So I don't normally do this in the superintendent update, but I just want to take a moment to sort of preview the next couple of board meetings and what we're trying to put together, but also really emphasize, again, the important work that you all do with the advocacy efforts, because this one is drastic this year and really impacts Beacon. I haven't been talking about it probably enough, so I just want to take a couple minutes to do that tonight.
Well, I think there's also, I know you guys do so much work and go up to Albany and meet with these folks, and they're kind of like, don't worry, it's going to work out. And there's a lot of, I feel like these well-worn channels of how education gets talked about and communicated. And I'm wondering if Paul doesn't just advocate up, but if we could get a toolkit out to our community.
Yeah, we've done that in the past.
Yeah.
So whenever we do advocacy, we share it with all the PTOs and PTAs. And we don't even, a lot of times we don't even have to reinvent the wheel, because Lower Hudson Education Coalition has a really good voter voice platform, and they have emails that can get sent out for certain really big umbrella issues. And so we'll share that with the PTOs and PTAs along with
Do you know what our
statements.
uptake is on that? I'm just wondering if
There's no way for us to measure that. I mean, I know the
there's-
PTOs and PTAs advertise it,
Right.
but there's no way for us to
From a behavioral perspective, I'm wondering if we communicate to the PTOs, like, it's important that you let us know if your members, like, let you know that they've advocated, because it kind of then creates this commitment for them to circle back and actually report that they did it, because I think that, you know, like mean well when you leave a meeting, but you've got to make dinner and do a bunch of other things, and of course you forget, and I think we might need to be a little bit more aggressive around this one.
I mean,
Even
they
if we
do it
create-
on social media. That's how we know that they're actually
Right.
sharing it.
Yeah, I mean, is it wrong to put it on the district page too,
No.
or put it on our platforms, because?
I think it'd be good for you all to be behind it if we did that.
Yeah,
but,
we can get a letter together.
Because I even think just breaking it down, like, the thing we're most worried about is the buses, right? Like, that's, I mean, is the budget, but it's like, if somebody's really like interested in this, in the buses, like, they could take that up as like, oh, I want to communicate around this, like, it's not easy there's this mandate, and people assume it's happening, but it's not, nobody's made it easy, so they could take up that initiative. It could be around universal pre-K and really explaining that issue and saying, like, if you care about this, or you have a child coming into this and you're worried about it, then you know, like, those things I think will start to, coming from individual voters might be more powerful over time, because I sometimes feel like they hear us, but they don't hear us.
We
Like,
did a really good one about universal pre-K. I think it was last year, or the year
yeah,
before
the
last.
one last year was really good.
And it was like, but the email that we sent out to the PTOs also sort of explained the stakes and like how it works
Right.
and what
Yeah.
the issue was. But I think it's a really good idea to make sure that we're sort of doing that process every time this comes up, you know.
I know in years past, I shared a letter to the advocacy group. I could draft one with the talking points that I heard and send it to you guys, and then maybe what we could do is we could put that on our website. We could also send it to the papers instead of just assemblymen and senators and stuff.
Letters
Op-eds
together.
for
Where we
sure.
could send it to, you know, the papers so they see what we're advocating for,
Yep,
and it will be clearly articulated. So I'll draft something and I'll send it to you guys.
that'd be
tomorrow.
great.
Will we ever do a letter to the editor as a board? I know
Yeah,
individually.
done
We've
it
done it
before.
before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's-
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm not
Yeah, so why don't
remembering
we, Anthony, if you can send us what you have, and we may incorporate it into a larger letter, but we can draft something by next Monday. We have our
I'll
prom
draft
meeting.
something tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Remind me when the advocacy
It's
committee?
next Monday. So if we can have something then, and we can just maybe approve it over email, since we don't have another meeting until the 18th, and start circulating it. And send it, you know, I think the op-ed is a really good idea.
And
Yes, it is.
Can I have a public comment at the end of the meeting?
We typically do not do that, but you're welcome to email the board. Yeah.
Just as a person on the PTO with some, I mean, I'm here tonight because I want to hear about this foundation aid, and I think the public's hungry for more
Yeah.
knowledge
Okay,
about it.
you know, at the PRAL meeting, our PR meeting is public. You're welcome to
Oh, that would-
join us for that.
that'd be
So,
fantastic.
that would be fine. It's Monday night at 7.
Here?
Yep, here.
Yeah.
So, okay, so,
So, thank you for letting me go on a little
Sure.
bit with that.
no, thank you.
No, I'm glad to
important
hear. I've been like, I think we all kind of panic
No
about this a
one
little
is
bit.
talking about this enough. I mean, the Alliance for Quality Education is usually super on top of this stuff, and I've heard nothing from them about it. Even the Lower Hudson Education
I
Coalition
have to
has been
say,
kinda
there's
quiet.
a lot of communication coming into the legislative offices about it.
Okay.
A
And I
lot.
think part of it is because both sides of the aisles are agreeing that the governor's proposal is dead
Universally.
on arrival.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, like,
There's something, there's something to me that really bothers me about that, because it's just so cozy. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, they're like, no, we got this.
Well,
And
that's what I mean. Like,
that's
that's what
not
it's like the.
democracy. That's not, you know, that's not a transparent process. Like, none of that works for me. So I think that needs to be, you know, really well pointed out in our letter.
Well, it feels like a regression to the mean of Albany. You know,
Yes.
like you're saying, it reminds like the 3 men in the room thing, and it's just like.
I think it's more like,
two women and a
this
man.
was, I mean, and not to speak out of turn about this, but this was something that was proposed that neither side particularly saw coming, and neither side has been advocating to have happen. And now both sides are pretty vigorously advocating to change. And that's kind of where you see, like, when you have that level of momentum, there's, that is when it's like, okay, there's no will on either side to keep this
Yeah,
around.
I just,
That's my
but I
understanding.
think it's too, they're too comfortable with this as the process.
Right, yeah, and I think that's where the advocacy around, hey, let's not use this as the football.
Yeah,
Also, I think that it doesn't take into account what we've been through in the past several years. You
Yeah.
know, like, we've gone through
we can, you know what, we
we've gone
can,
through like a pandemic and this, it's like, sorry.
I just want to
No, please.
structure the conversation, so we can open it as a new business item in a second if anybody wants to, but I'm just going to move on to board comments now, if that's okay. Kristen?
Yeah, I'll start with that, which is I think that there's so much fatigue that's setting in for people who have volunteered and then people who work in schools to have held things together for the past several years. It felt like we were hitting a bit of wind at our back to get that foundation aid and the recognition of everything schools have been through and the planning that was required and the increased ask of all of our, educators and administrators that were dealing with children that were drastically changed by that experience. And it just is so incredibly frustrating to feel like it is a political football. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Eunice?
No comment.
Alina?
Everybody's saying
I only looking forward to the prom meeting because as far as other ways to communicate to families about how we can tackle this.
Absolutely. So we'll start a Google doc and copy you on it, and Summer is the other person in PR. So we can all, four of us,
Some
kind of
ideas and
pull something together.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anthony?
No comments.
Flora?
The Dutchess County School Board Association meeting is this Thursday. I think we're going to start talking about the resolutions that we want to work on this year. And I mean, we did come up with those buckets of resolutions that we're working on. One includes EV buses, so that's a good discussion that we've been having. But I will report back about progress with that, and if there are any other issues that are coming up that we want to advocate on.
Super, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't have any comments. Great discussion, thank you. I want to remind our audit committee that we have a meeting on Thursday, 6 p.m. 6 p.m.?
6, yes.
And also.
Audit finance.
Audit and finance, sorry. I was
We're trying to
abbreviating.
rebrand it.
Audit and finance. And also, I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but there is an elementary art exhibit at I think is it at the Howland? Yeah, at the library, and the opening is Saturday, March 9th from 1 to 3. So stop by and see some BCSD art.
Wait, is it the Howland Library or the Howland Cultural
At
Center?
the library. This is from library, yeah. Okay, new business, the BOCES board nomination. So I never love the way they do this. There are 3 spaces open, and sorry, I lost my tab here.
Okay.
So Richard Keller Coffey has resigned and his seat is vacant. Karen, is it Smythe or Smith?
Smythe.
Her term is up and she is interested in running again. Michael McFarland, his seat is up and he is also interested in being nominated for reelection. And then there's Karen Burka who came and she is interested. So there are 3 people interested for 3 seats. Do we have any nominations for?
I will nominate Karen Burka.
Okay, any other nominations?
I'll nominate Karen Smythe.
Great. Any others? We don't have.
Can nominate, I don't even know the person.
Who's the third person?
The third person is Michael, no, it's, sorry, Michael McFarland.
I'll nominate Michael.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, great. Can I have is everyone in favor of the nomination of Karen Burka?
Yes.
Yes.
I am also in favor of it. Is everyone in favor of the nomination of Karen Smythe?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm also in favor. Is everyone in favor of the nomination of Michael McFarland?
Yes.
I am also in favor. So, Vicky, got it? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Are there any items that any board members would like to have removed from the consent agenda? This is
Is it the 12?
12.01, okay. Any others?
1309 I 1, 2, 3, 6, 7.
Any others? Okay, can I have a motion to approve 12.02 through 16.03, less 12.01, 13.09 I, 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7?
So moved?
Second.
Moved by
Flora.
Flora, second by Kristen. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm also in favor, passes 6-0. Can I have a motion to approve 12.01?
So moved?
So
Like getting amended.
here's where you say, I'm going to make you do it, Alina,
you.
since you found it. You would say, I would like to move to amend 12.01 so that,
I see this after she's,
Oh, yeah, should I
Before-
have
Yeah.
said anything?
no, you can say it, we can have it on the table and then you can move to amend it. So,
Okay.
like, once the movement is made, then you can say it. So you can say it now.
I would like to amend 12.01 to update the half-day on Monday, November 25th, to say November 25th.
Okay, so you're motioning for this amendment. So do we have a second for that motion for the amendment?
Second.
So the motion was made by Alina, the second is by Kristen. Are there any comments or questions about this amendment?
Thank you for catching that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor, passes 6-0. So now we have to vote on the actual original motion, 12.01, to approve the calendar. So we approved the amendment to the calendar, now we have to approve the calendar with the amendment. So can I have a motion to approve 12.01 with the amendment?
So moved.
Second.
Eunice, second by Alina. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm also in favor, passes 6-0. Anthony, do you want these,
You could do them together.
can I have a motion to approve 1309 I, 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7?
So moved.
Second.
Kristen and then Eunice. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
I'm in favor, so it passes 5-0. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Before you do that, just one quick thing. Mr. Dwyer texted me the Intro to Teaching course is happening next year. So there's already students signing up.
Awesome.
And bonus points to him for watching the board meeting, I guess.
Impressed. Awesome.
So moved?
Second.
Second by Lena. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor. Passes 6-0. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.